So if I was planning to birth for the first time, these are the 3 practical things that I would do to prepare myself. So the first one is making space in your body, in your pelvis, to help baby get into the optimum position for birth. So if you think about it, when you're pregnant, if you're on hands and knees, there is lots of space in your belly for your baby to get into the right position. If we contrast this to reclining on the couch in this position, baby is pressed and snug up against you. Your tummy muscles are kind of holding them in place. So there's less space for baby to be able to move. So this is why in those later stages of pregnancy where you can, hang out in this position, hang out in hands and knees, rocking and rolling, watch TV over a beanbag so it's nice and comfortable and your belly can just hang. So that we know that the joints of the pelvis are movable. So these bones move and make space for baby. And there are certain things we can do with our body to help make space in the inlet, so the opening part of the pelvis, and also in the outlet, so where baby is going to come out from. So in these later stages of pregnancy, I would work on mobility of the pelvis, getting used to moving in a way that is changing the inlet and the outlet of the pelvis, so that during labor you've already practiced these positions and you're going to be more instinctual and able to move into them more comfortably because you're already familiar with them. So a simple one that you can do is some gentle lunges, so a kneeling lunge with that back knee down. If the back knee isn't comfortable, you can always put a cushion or something underneath it. Another really great one that you can do is coming into like a really open puppy pose. So resting the head down. You could even creep the hands further forward, almost making an A shape with the body. And then another great one you can come into is a kneeling position, sticking the butt right out and moving the bottom from side to side. So bending into each knee. Another great one you can practice is tucking and untucking the pelvis. So this is modifying the openings of the pelvis, the inlet and the outlet. And all of these positions, feeling really comfortable moving through the pelvis, rocking and rolling, and then also those hands and knee positions are going to help get baby in the best position for your body and your baby to birth. The second thing that I would do to prepare myself to birth is learn how to breathe calmly when my body is feeling stressful or intense sensations. So of course you can't practice what it feels like to feel a contraction in the uterus. We don't get that until we're actually in labor. But you can practice what it feels like for other muscles to contract and engage. If you play sport, if you run marathons, if you do any sort of physical activity, it's likely you've already experienced some sort of intense sensation, or dare I say it, pain in your body, and had to work through that. The difference with labor pains is they are consistent, they build in intensity until that point at which your baby is born. And so you do have to get the mental fortitude, but also a skill or a practice that you can do, like breath work, to help get you through it. And the more you've practiced it, the better you're going to be about using that breath during labor and birth when those sensations become intense. So a great one that I often do in pregnancy yoga classes is a toe stand. So if you tuck the toes under, typically our toes are not used to being in this position, not used to the level of stretching. Of course, if you get a cramp and you need to stop at any stage, you're welcome to. And then you can either keep the hands in front of you to keep that weight off the toes, or if it's okay, you can come up onto the toes. And already this is quite intense for my body. You're probably already feeling it if you're doing it along with me. I would then bring my hands to my belly and I would close down the eyes, so really shutting down the rest of the world, bringing that attention inside. And then just slowly breathing in through the nose and breathing out through the nose. So you notice you can hear my exhale. That's because I'm gently constricting the throat. It's called an Ujjayi breath. And that sound gives me something to focus on. You could just as easily make a moaning sound, something to focus on. You could blow through the lips and make a humming sound. All of these tools are just ways to focus and keep the attention off the sensation. Because if you think, oh my God, this hurts, this is terrible, get me out, get me out, get me out, your entire body is constricting, getting tense, and that will make the sensation harder to bear, especially when we're actually in labor and our body is trying to contract and move that baby out. If we're holding on tight, labor potentially can take longer. So we really want to focus on where we can, feeling this uncomfortable sensation, breathing, maybe using a bit of sound to focus our attention and remind ourselves that we can get through this uncomfortable sensation. If you don't like that toe stand position, because that one is really quite intense, you could do something as simple as holding the arms out wide, maybe doing little tiny circles. It may not feel like much at the moment, but after a little while, this will become really intense. And same thing, we're just breathing through the sensations in the body. Alternatively, you could come to the wall into a squat, and this too is nice and intense on the legs. Again, focus on the breath, use sound. You could even use movement like stomping the feet as a distraction tool to get really used to feeling that difficult sensation in the body and talking yourself through it. And then the third thing that I would do to prepare myself for birth is desensitize myself to birth. So I know when you've never given birth before, the whole thing feels really scary. It's why I buried my head in the sand, didn't read about birth, didn't prepare for birth, had all the baby stuff, but didn't think about the actual event that was going to bring my baby to me. That was a mistake. Instead of burying your head in the sand and just being like, I don't want to think about it, try and desensitize yourself to birth, but in a positive way. You could listen to all the horror stories, but all that's going to do is give you loads of fear about birth and make it even worse. When you think about birth, you'll be tight and tense, and that can make labor and birth more painful and potentially longer, because when we're afraid, we're tense and tight. And if you think about what the body is trying to do during birth, it is trying to release this baby. So we do need to be able to move into a space of letting our body guide. It will still be intense and it will still be your body contracting intensely, but we do need to soften and allow that process to happen. So instead, I want you to desensitize yourself by watching or listening to birth content that is positive in nature. So lots of things on Australian birth stories, watch hypnobirths or calm births on YouTube, read books about birth or stories of birth online. All of this exposure to positive content about birth is going to help you to get into this frame of mind that it's not as scary as your brain wants to think it is. When we don't know anything about birth, our mind automatically goes to worst case scenarios. Whereas if you've experienced it, when it happens in real life, you're going to be less likely to have a real reaction to it than if you've already been exposed to it and you're expecting many of the things that happen. So whilst I understand that not everyone is going to do a full hypnobirthing course or a birth education course, just exposing yourself to stories about birth, others' experience about birth, and trying to skew those towards the positive. Of course, unexpected things happen during birth all the time. And the more you can be aware of what's happening, what it's like to birth within a hospital, things you can do to prepare yourself for that space and for what that space does to the biological body trying to birth, the more prepared you're going to be. So super quickly to recap, you're going to move your body into positions that will help baby get into the optimum position for birth. If you'd like full yoga classes for this, I have plenty in my online yoga circle. The link for that will be below. You're going to use breath work and other tools to practice what it feels like to have difficult sensations in the body. Again, there are yoga classes in my circle for practicing this. And thirdly, you're going to expose yourself to lots of positive content about birth. Watch it, listen to it, read it. Get yourself immersed in a birth space, listen to other people's stories, and get yourself in a space where you feel confident and ready to give birth. I will be sending you all my love and strength for this super exciting day. I know it can feel overwhelming when it's your first time, but I also want you to focus on the very exciting fact that you're about to meet your baby. Please come back to this video and let me know how you went. I can't wait to hear your positive story as well. See you soon.